Humans were so moving that Veldanava even dreamed of becoming a part of that world. However, there was a problem. Humans who have acquired intelligence stimulate each other and behave in ways that are impossible to predict. If left unchecked, they will soon begin fighting each other and walking the path to self-destruction. Several worlds were born from the base world, but similar trends could be seen in all of them. It's because of emotions. Wisdom, desire, joy, anger, sorrow, and happiness were given to humans because they were thought to be necessary for greater human development. However, emotions that grew too large tended to exclude the opinions of others. When people's ideologies and definitions of what is correct differed, disputes and arguments arose. Rather than engaging in rational discussion, there were many cases in which people got angry and simply asserted their own righteousness, resulting in conflict. This is because the underlying argument was a cause for justice that the people involved could never compromise on. Veldanava thought, let's accept that these phenomena are a necessary evil to a certain extent and accept the way the world is as a training ground for the soul. If people were completely controlled, there would be no more conflict. However, this would mean that individual emotions would no longer fluctuate, and even if things were equal and fair, there would be no free will, resulting in a world without stimulation or dystopia. So it's similar to when I was lonely. Such a world was not what Veldanava wanted. Since then, they have made numerous adjustments and tried to develop it into what humanity desires. By changing the conditions in the numerous parallel worlds of other dimensions, different evolutions were achieved. Guy and the others helped out with this. Just as light creates shadows, the 7 demons of the beginning were born in response to the 7 angels of the beginning. Guy was the leader and strongest of them all. Since they were not created directly by Veldanava, they could not give orders to the primordial beings. Guy helped them because he had formed a friendship with Veldanava. It wasn't just Guy. Veldanava had other collaborators as well. They are naturally occurring gods, such as Dagrul and Ramaris. Taking inspiration from these indigenous gods, he gave birth to the divine ancestor, luminous Twilight Valentine. He created him as a new life form with a physical body, and he would use his capable mind to help Veldanava. With their cooperation, the ideal environment was finally completed. A system was constructed that would allow the soul to circulate through all dimensions in an eternal cycle. Thus, each world will develop in a wide variety of ways. When everything started to work out, the wheel of fate began to turn. Upon meeting Lucia, Veldanava learns about love. The two fell in love, and Milim was conceived within Lucia. At the same time as Milim was born, Veldanava lost all of his power. However, such facts were trivial. In the end, Veldanava loved this world, and he wished for his daughter Milim to grow up safely and healthily. As he had determined that this was how all living things should be, he hoped that his daughter Milim would surpass her parents. Therefore, even if he lost all of his powers, Veldanava was not troubled. There should have been no problem at all. Veldanava could never have imagined that there was such a despicable fool who would boast of having defeated a godlike being that had lost all of its powers and become a mere human and achieved god-killing. Although it was a gross misinterpretation, the responsibility for allowing all freedom of thought lay with Veldanava. And when that murderous blade reached his beloved Lucia, Veldanava also began to have doubts. Was I really right? With Veldanava gone, it seemed as if the world would lose order. However, thanks to the efforts of the mediators led by Guy, the world was barely able to maintain a good state of affairs. It is impossible for a god to be defeated by a human. Or perhaps it was due to the coercive power of the world. By the nature of the system, God's love must be poured out equally. However, it's possible that the error occurred because Veldanava fell in love with a specific individual. This is evidence of God's weakening, and is also the reason why God became confused. In that case, it would be better not to love anyone, but Veldanava was lost in thought and thought that there was no point in doing so. The constructed system deemed Lucia's existence harmful. Therefore, if a backlash called compulsion occurred, and Veldanava and Lucia were eliminated, the world would need to be returned to zero and rebuilt. That was the conclusion Veldanava had come to, but it seemed that his thinking might have been fundamentally wrong. Kyaha. His evil smile was filled with pure malice. This behavior is not evil, but it shows absolutely no consideration or consideration for others, and is extremely selfish and self-centered. Veldanava tolerated this. The current situation is the result of this, so it can be said that they brought it on themselves. Swords cross. At that moment, Ivaraj laughed. I'll love you, we'll be together forever and ever. What are you saying, ah? What spread from Ivalage was a bottomless void. In his battle with Guy, Ivalage had learned the terrifying, soul-devouring technique and made it his own. Desire clung to Veldanava. They have a physical, ethereal form, and once you embrace them, they won't let go. I like you, I love you so much. This is what love feels like. Veldanava was being swallowed up. Caught in the grip of murky desire, there is no escape. Veldanava tried to get away from Ivalage, but he also understood that this was impossible. This is not simply absorption. It is a force that forces what was originally one thing to return to its original state. Veldanava realized that there was no escaping this. He had finally managed to reunite with Lucia, but no matter how regretful he felt, there was nothing he could do. It's okay, Velda, you're not alone. Oh, I've dragged you into this again. You fufu, it doesn't matter. I got to see how much Milim has grown, so I have no regrets. Lucia smiled and said that she was satisfied with having fulfilled her role of passing the tradition on to the next generation. Lucia gently told Veldanava, who was still sad after hearing this, in order to soothe him. The heart is a fickle thing, but even so, I loved you and I still love you. Those feelings will never change. No matter how many times I'm reborn, I'm sure. That's right, Veldanava replied. It's the same for me too, he said. Just having Lucia, there made me feel fulfilled. That is love. And that crystal is Milim. Why had I forgotten about that? It was such an important thing, Veldanava thought, feeling strange. I had been contemptuous and neglecting Milim, who was very, very important to me. I can't believe what I've done, but it's an undeniable reality. It seemed that he had gone crazy, but it would be too late to bring him back to his senses now. The present is the punishment from God. This may also be a form of coercion. Veldanava thought so and laughed at himself, thinking that it was all his own doing. As a result of having loneliness and being selfish, he caused trouble to the many worlds he had created and became the source of destruction for everything. We dreamed of a world where everyone could live happily, but we are approaching an end that will spread misery and despair. It was all his own fault. Veldanava had no choice but to admit this and was filled with grief. You're not the only one to blame. It was all inevitable, and it's not time to give up. Yet, Veldanava was confused. He couldn't figure out what Lucia was saying. The world is cruel, but it's not all that bad, is it? After all, your heart is so warm. But it's okay, because there is hope for us too. Hope Elpis. It's a name I've only recently heard. A cheeky slime stood in front of me. The name is Veldanava suddenly remembered something. a conversation I once had with Lucia. Should we name this baby? When asked this question, Veldanava answered with a happy feeling. Sright, wouldn't Milim be good? Why had I forgotten? That was before Milim was born. Veldanava had certainly spoken another name. Now that I remember that, I'm convinced that it was all inevitable. I see, surpassing his parents had been achieved. As he was about to be assimilated by Ivalage, Veldanava felt enveloped in happiness once again. Veldanava was no longer lonely. My heart felt fulfilled. Ivalage continued to absorb power, but I still didn't feel anything. Yin and Yang. Holding Lucia's hand, she curls up into a tiny ball. Emma. Right before my eyes, Veldanava was eaten by Ivarage. I'm sure you don't understand what I'm saying, but I don't understand it either. Will I be able to use my powers to separate the Veldanava that Ivalage has eaten? If that were possible, it would be possible to significantly reduce the force. Rimuru-kun, what are you planning to do? Gi Gaisan. It's not a matter of what I'm going to do. Also, please stop using the honorific Kimi at times like this. With that statement, you're just dumping the responsibility on me. It is important to strongly assert that the general contractor also has supervisory responsibility. Well, a small fry like me will just follow Gaisan. Don't underestimate me. You should handle your own business. No. It's not just about me. It's everyone's problem. That's what I said, but unfortunately there were some heartless people there. You see, Rimuru-san, I couldn't do something like that. I have no choice but to agree. Same on the right. Dino, Gracia, and Pico were the first to argue that it was not their turn to get involved. I can understand that point of view. That's because, no matter how you look at it, Ivalage, who had absorbed Veldanava, had turned into a monster. Its appearance changes from that of a beautiful woman to that of a hybrid of a dragon and a human. What came to mind was Milim in her stampede madness state. Her entire body was covered in dragon scales, and she was in her strongest state, where normal attacks and magic were completely ineffective. It seemed he intended to completely absorb Veldanava, and he hadn't made any moves yet. However, he had a premonition that the moment he started to move, that would be the end of the world. Just by looking at it, you can tell how dangerous it is. Image. Not only did he already look strong, but Ivalage also had Genesis-class swords in both hands. It was unclear whether he could wield two swords, but if he had devoured Veldanava and was able to control all of his powers, it was safe to assume that he had also mastered perfect sword techniques. To be honest, it seemed like Dino and the others wouldn't be able to do anything. Rimuru, I'll help you. That's what Milim said, but it seems like she's also injured all over. Major injuries have healed, but small scars remain. If Milim were healthy, those would disappear in an instant. Rimuru-san, I'll help you too. An incredibly beautiful girl. That's what Chloe told me. But I know. Chloe's foresight into the future was meaningless in a suspended world, and her energy had almost been depleted due to the fierce battle she had been fighting. To be honest, I wasn't entirely happy with having Milim and Chloe help me right now. In truth, he wanted her to help, but he didn't want to put Milim and Chloe in danger. I appreciate your kind words, but leave this to me. I want you to observe how I fight and find out if Ivarage has any weaknesses. I said, swallowing my tears. I see if that's the case, leave it to me. That's not true. Gaisan, I didn't say that to you. Don't worry, you're good at stalling for time, aren't you? Buy us as much time as you can. MMHMM, when you put it that way, I can't deny it. Among the people here, or rather compared to anyone else, I'm the one who's best at stalling for time. Besides, I have Seal by my side now, so I don't feel anxious at all. Feeling that There's no other way. I decided to accept the proposal. Do your best, Rimuru. Ramiris, now in her adult form, cheered me on. Although she looks like a lady, she behaves like a child. Perhaps because she grew, using a sneaky technique of borrowing energy from me. I feel an incredible sense of discomfort towards Ramiris. It's good that she has become able to display great powers like primitive magic. But if you ask me, if she's suited to combat, the answer is no. If I asked Ramiris to help me, it would probably hold me back. Hey Rimuru, are you thinking of something rude? No, that's not true. That's fine then. Well then, I'll try out a few things for now, I said, turning my eyes to Ivalage. Yes, I'm counting on you. With Guy's voice behind me, I shrugged my shoulders in response. Veldora was the one to rely on here. It looks like it's my turn. What's really encouraging is that they have announced their intention to participate. However, if Veldora were to fight alongside them, it would mean that there would be no safety device. It's unlikely that they'd both be defeated at the same time, but the possibility is not zero. Please put it on hold. The final line of defense is the ultimate secret weapon. I'll wait and see for a bit longer. If that's the case, I'll trust you and wait. Because Veldora was there, Guy had left it to me to buy time. Although I didn't want to, I had no choice but to admit that it was the best plan. For now, let's give it a try. They should have grasped the enemy's military strength and then formulated a full-scale operation. Well, I'll try it once. With that said, I took off towards Ivalage. As I got closer to Ivalage, I realized once again how dangerous it was. How can I put it? It's shocking. It gives off a mischievous, sinister, evil aura that makes it hard to imagine that humans could defeat it. It's okay. Master and Lord are not losing either. You see, I'm not that evil. Well, I felt a little more at ease because Sealsan gave me his stamp of approval. Still, though, the amount of energy is astonishing. It is not possible to measure it accurately, but if converted into existence value, it is likely to exceed several billion. There's no doubt it's in the trillions. Teeth. That's impossible. If it's more than 100 times my prediction, that's just impossible. How can I say that I haven't lost? Moreover, this is an assertion. Maybe Seal's calculation skills have deteriorated a little. There is no truth to this, absolutely not. It would be troubling if that were the case, but perhaps its performance deteriorated when it was kidnapped by Veldonava. I'm happy that you rely on me, Master, but sometimes I want to see you get serious. Yes. I'm scared of Seal's overestimation. I'm always serious, but no one seems to understand. Well, that's fine. Now is not the time to be fighting with my partner, so I think I'll try to do my best. I readjusted my beloved sword, Hope Elpis, and aimed it at Ivalage. Ha ha ha, this is what it feels like to be strong. Ivalage laughed loudly, and upon noticing me, launched 2 consecutive attacks. Slow. I deal with the situation without panicking. Far from being that slow, it was actually frighteningly fast, but if you use thought acceleration to look at it, it's no problem. It's unclear what the current magnification is, but you can see Ivarage's movements and his future aims as if they were right in front of your eyes. Since a competitive spirit is important in a match, I don't hold back on my bluffing. If this distracts Ivarage, then I'll have made a profit. He deflects the sword on his right hand that touches him first, then swings down the sword on his left. Then he delivers a powerful side kick to the body, which is now defenseless. In aerial combat, there is no foothold, so it was difficult to transmit power. However, he was now used to it, and could generate a repulsive force and exert his power with maximum efficiency, whether in the atmosphere or anywhere else. In fact, he was even able to perform feats, such as spreading his wings like a bat. and accelerating his body, thereby increasing the power of his attacks. Since the suspended world is currently active, air resistance and other dynamics are not in effect, and yet I can move without any problems, so I've grown quite a bit. Perfect. Right. You could have praised me more, I thought as I pursued Ivalage. Ivarage quickly adjusted his stance and blocked my sword. One sword wasn't enough, so he crossed two swords together. But however, unable to withstand the overwhelming impact that occurred when the swords collided, he was blown away. Ivalage gouged out destruction into the ground before crashing into the Tensukaku and stopping. The force of the impact was evident from the fact that the Tensukaku, which was supposed to be indestructible, had once again shattered. But it's strange. It was certainly a tremendous impact, but it had almost no effect on me. In fact, it felt like nothing more than a gentle breeze. This proves that we were the ones making the push. Oh, surprisingly. Is this really their full power? Thinking that's stupid, I reject the idea. I can sense a terrifying power coming from Ivalage. Its presence is eerie, and according to Seal, its existence value reaches the trillions. Despite this, I was surprised to find that I was doing better than I had expected. Master is evolving every day, so it's only natural. It's truly amazing. As if answering my question, Seal declared that it was obvious. No, it's true. I did want to be praised, but when I'm praised so highly that it makes my teeth ache, it actually feels like a lie. Well, yeah. I'm surprised at how much I've grown, and it's not that I'm not happy to be praised. Being able to move without Seal's assistance is like being able to ride a bicycle for years to come. It's a skill acquired through experience, so my body reacts automatically, without me having to think too hard about it. That's why I'm able to fight Ivarage. I shouldn't have hesitated and missed this opportunity. Before the blown-away Ivalage could stand up, I went into pursuit mode. He slammed his sword, which was wrapped in black flames, into Ivarage, whittling away at him. The reason I couldn't tell him to chop it into small pieces was because it was too hard to cut. Naturally, Ivalage's dragon scales were as strong as Genesis class. To cut them would require incredible skill and a powerful weapon. Regardless of my skill and level, the weapon grades were equal, so I decided it was simply impossible. There's no need to go easy on me, you know. That's why I'm not going easy on you. Seal's perception seems a bit strange, but is it really okay? While worrying about these things, I began to devise a surefire strategy for the battle against Ivalage. The battle between Rimuru and Ivalage got off to a spectacular start. Guy, who was watching, sent heartfelt praise. You bastard, you've gotten strong again. The one to respond to this was Diablo, who had rushed to the scene having fulfilled his duties. Q-fu-fu-fu-fu, of course. As expected of Rimuru-sama, I am very pleased to see that you have grown to this extent. However, this is not all. Rimuru-sama and I are connected by the corridor of souls, but it seems that you have not yet shown your true strength. Perhaps you are planning to teach us the basics. Huh, so you're still not serious about that. From Rimuru's perspective, he was being very serious, but from Diablo's point of view, he was underestimating his enemy and going easy on them. The proud Diablo tried to give a speech to the surprised Guy, but of course, if Rimuru-sama, who is a true god, were to get serious, it wouldn't end like that. The first to speak was Feldway, who had been my enemy until just a moment ago. Before he knew it, he had become a Rimuru believer on par with Diablo. This, too, was a strange story. Guy looked at him with a look that said, "What is this guy talking about?" But Feldway paid no attention to it. To Rimuru-sama, the Ivalage are no match for him, and yet seeing him go easy on us, it seems he is showing us fools an example, just as Diablo said. Hey, there's another idiot like Diablo here, Guy thought, getting a headache. A senior idiot is lecturing a new idiot in a condescending manner. TCH, how dare someone like you utter Rimuru-sama's name? Did you get his permission? I'm sure he's showing me how to do it, but that has nothing to do with you know. Maybe I'm being indignant about the wrong thing. Guy wondered, but he was finding it troublesome and no longer wanted to point it out. Instead, Ultima, who had arrived late, shouted, I mean, what is going on? Why is someone like Feldway talking about Rimuru Sama like he's superior, leaving us behind? That was a very valid point. Although they are acting like they are friends, they have not yet completely reconciled. At the very least, an apology should come first. Well, now is not the time for that, so let's discuss the matter once things have calmed down. Testarossa was the one trying to calm him down, but if she hadn't considered the time and place, she would have sided with Ultima. You have surrendered to Rimuru-sama, haven't you? If so, I have no complaints. Karara is the only one who has the style of forgiving someone if they become her ally. His integrity was second to none, even among the demons. Meanwhile, what about the other spectators? Well, Rimuru is amazing after all, isn't he? After all, he's my friend. I'm actually closer to Rimuru than he is. After all, we're best friends. And I met him first. Kiwahaha. If you say so, then I must go first. Also, Rimuru and I are allies. So you should know that no one can surpass our relationship. Shut up, I don't know anything about that. That's good. I'm more useful at work than master, and there's no doubt that you're close to Rimuru. It was clear that Rimuru was likely to win, and the mood was bright. Each of them said whatever they wanted, and a boasting battle was about to begin about who was the most important to Rimuru. Glancing at the people having this exchange, Chloe muttered quietly, because I'm the one Rimuru-san loves the most. She was an adult and didn't take part in pointless arguments. Zalerio and Obra could not hide their surprise. He's not Feldway, but his strength is abnormal. That's true. I never thought Ivarage, who had devoured Lord Veldanava, would be so overwhelmed. I knew Rimuru was strong, but I never imagined he would be this strong. Or, rather, there was no way I could have imagined it. To them, the stellar king dragon Veldanava was the supreme being. He had despaired when he had witnessed the sight of him being eaten by the Ivalage, but the situation he was in now was more than shocking. It was surreal. Ah, is that Rimuru? Cornu is astonished to see Rimuru for the first time, but the next moment, Feldway, who is standing a short distance away, gives him some forceful instruction. This is Rimuru-sama. If you make another disrespectful remark, you should know that even I, who am usually tolerant, will not forgive you. No one knew what tolerance was. Still, it was clear that it was best to be extremely careful when speaking about anything related to Rimuru. Dino and the others comfort Cornu, who is feeling down after being scolded. Well, you'll understand eventually. That's right. Feldway is annoying, but what he says isn't wrong. Rimuru-san Sama is the person who will be our employer, so I need you to respect him as well. Cornu thought. What the hell is Rimuru? Why is this newcomer acting all big without me even knowing? And so, however, as I watched them fight, I began to feel foolish for worrying. The idea that strength is everything is wrong, but it's a natural logic for Cornu and his friends. If you're not strong, no one will follow you. To Cornu, who was bound by common sense, Feldway was the ideal boss. He was not happy that such a boss had come to worship a newcomer, but as he looked at Rimuru, he realized how foolish he had been. That's amazing. Rimuru, no, Lord Rimuru. Okay, I've decided, from today onwards, I will also respect Lord Rimuru. It only takes a moment for them to change their minds. Time did not pass, so according to the laws of physics, it was just an instant. Benimaru and Zijin looked on as if it was only natural. It might not be our turn. Yes, this battle is beyond our reach. The exchange between the two confidants shows their absolute trust in Rimuru. Looking at this from the side, Yuki, who was standing a little distance away, thought, I must absolutely not become an enemy of Rimuru-san. Yuki is a man who has long since given up on his dream of world domination, but he has no intention of giving up on everything he wants to do. If Zistave is truly returned, he wants to make Cagali queen and turn it into a country where she can live happily with her friends, but that's just how it is. He had been thinking about traveling around the world and broadening his horizons. He wanted to increase the number of his allies and have more influence. But seeing Rimuru's dangerousness made him realize that it was not good to go too far. The message was that we should never forget to exercise self-restraint. And so the demon lurks in the darkness, continuing to operate in the shadows. The one who was calm and composed was Ridra. Standing next to Velgrind, he looked down on the others and enjoyed the sights. That Rimuru guy is quite something. Yes, I was completely defeated too, so I understand that you shouldn't be hostile towards them. He's harmless as long as you don't anger him, but once he loses his temper, he's impossible to control. Well, it should be fine then. It seems that my dream of world unification will be achieved through economic domination. Even if I push myself too hard here, I don't think I'll get any good results. And besides, Yuki adores Rimuru after all. Yes, that's right. We have a good relationship. If that's the case, then that's fine. Rudra had a lot he wanted to say to Veldanava, who was his sister's husband. However, it seemed that opportunity had been lost. Rudra's regrets about this world had been largely resolved, so he began to think that it might be okay to return. However, he was worried about what would happen to Yuki, who was left behind, if he really did return. It would probably not be able to cope with the suspended world and would come to a standstill. That was why Rudra intended to see this battle through to the end. Velgrind also noticed Rudra's feelings. It was a little lonely, but Yuki was also Rudra, so it wasn't a problem. More importantly, I don't think this is the end. Perhaps it's not over yet. While watching the outcome of the battle, Velgrind worked hard to recover her strength. On the battlefield, you never know what will happen. Velgrind never let her guard down so that she could respond no matter what. And then, Velgrind's worries were confirmed. Ivalage decided to stop going easy on him. I hate this guy. I went to the trouble of becoming one with Veldanava, so why is he getting in the way? He took on an adult form in order to enjoy fighting. He was just fighting according to his opponent because he was too strong and it was boring. This is what is called so-called restricted play. However, right now they are being pushed back by an enemy named Rimuru. No matter what I did, my attacks were ineffective, and the ones that did hit me were extremely painful. It's not a painful sensation, but rather the unpleasant sensation of energy being drained. If we continued to fight like this, it even felt like we might lose. That's not fun at all. That's not funny, Ivarage thought. Kayaha'll crush you and eat you. As soon as he declared this, Ivalage began to transform into a monster. From a form that could be called human, it transformed into the indescribable form of an evil dragon. And so the battle reaches its final stage. Something terrible had happened, I thought, as if it was someone else's problem. It no longer looks like something that can be cut down with a sword, and emotionally I'm at a loss. I had planned to slowly whittle away at its stamina, drain its energy, and somehow defeat it. That was my plan, but now was no time for such leisurely things. Compared to when he was in human form, the cell fragments contained less energy. In exchange, they could be regenerated more easily, so even if the sword were to inflict damage, the amount of recovery would exceed the damage. It would be great if we could all work together and wipe them out with large-scale magic or a super ultimate secret technique or some other special move, but the laws of physics in the current, suspended world mean that magic can't be activated, and it's almost impossible to use emission spells. In other words, the only option was to steadily test their strength, but that too had become meaningless. What should I do? While I was worrying about this, I sighed as I watched Ivalage continue to change. The conclusion is that the only way to defeat it is to challenge it in large numbers and drain its energy. However, this would be extremely dangerous. In the current situation, not only can't revive magic be used, but even recovery. Magic can't be activated, and there are no safety measures in place. My intuition tells me that this will result in many casualties. If I made even the slightest mistake, it would probably be the end. I would be eaten and destroyed, never to be regenerated or revived again. I think if there were at least some powerful techniques or long-distance attack methods, it would be possible to attack more safely and effectively. Yes, now is the time to finally execute true Dragon Core transformation. I forgot, but I had that kind of power too. That's if the dragon demon sword is named Hope Elpis, it should be able to withstand the force of a true Dragon Core with ease. It was. It's like asking Veldora to inhabit my sword. If this is used, it will no longer be possible to use Veldora as a safety device. However, in return, it will allow the use of immense power. I was scared, so I sealed it away, but given the situation, it was unavoidable. I immediately spoke to Veldora. Veldora, could you please lend me your strength? When I said that, Veldora responded happily. Maybe it's my turn. He answered like a big shot, but now it was time for his secret weapon to come into play. That's right, now is the time for Veldora-san, the final line of defense that has remained hidden for so long, and who possesses the ultimate power to take action. Kuehahaha, that may be so, that may be so. Rimuru, I have been waiting for this moment. Veldora readily accepted my offer. Well then, let's get started right away, or so I thought. Wait a moment. You can't rely on just your stupid little brother, can you? Huh. Sister, what are you? Velgrind suddenly offered to help as well. Velgrind is also capable of true Dragon Core transformation. Well, I suppose that's true. In Seal's case, it's scary because it seems like she just wants to collect data. Is that okay, Rudra? Ah, Groon. You can protect yourself and Masyuki, so do as you like. I love you, Rudra. Of course, Masyuki too. Ahaha, I also believe in Velgrind-san, so please help Rimuru-san. Oh my, hee, I'm happy. I love you, Masyuki. I'll do my best. While I was talking with Seal, Velgrind's side had also finished talking. Masyuki has also become accustomed to the suspended world and has even given his permission for Velgrind to participate in the battle, since it is out of kindness and for my own good. I will gratefully accept his help. It's my turn, my stage. My ally, Veldora, was also in shock, so I gently comforted him. It's okay. There are 2 holes in the sword, so your important role won't be lost. To be honest, that seems stronger and it makes me feel more secure, so please don't lament too much. In any case, I managed to secure the cooperation of Veldora and Velgrind. All that's left now is to actually try it out and see how well it works. As I was thinking that, I felt a presence behind me. Hey, can I help you too? Guy whispered in my ear. To be honest, I'm very happy about the offer. No, let's try landing a hit first. Then, let's try to find a way to defeat him. I see. With a monster of that caliber, a half-hearted attack probably won't work. That's right, I think so too. I agree. That's why it's the strongest attack. I've never tried it, but I'm sure it will work. My Rimuru is such a tough guy. Well then, I'll help you in place of Guy. Oops. You're most welcome. That means Velzard can also become a dragon core. It's true that my powers have increased, but my Hope Elpies only had 2. Hole's right. He had intended to challenge them by trapping Veldora and Velgrind as true dragon cores, but perhaps he could use them as substitutes, great replacements, or valuable items in case wind and fire don't work. No, they can be used simultaneously. Picture. When he pointed that out, I quickly checked the sword. And then, surprisingly, Hope Elpies had 3 holes to fit the sword's blade core. You're kidding me, I thought, surprised, but Seal was full of enthusiasm. Once this happens, it's difficult to stop. I'm also worried about whether the sword will be able to withstand the force. However, his true intention is to unleash as much power as possible on Ivalage. Since we want to defeat it before it can regenerate, there is no time to be stingy. Then, I guess I should ask Velzard-san to help me. Leave it to me. It was strange considering I'd kept it a secret. Velzard seemed to fully understand what I was trying to do. Perhaps there is something being communicated due to the authority. As proof of this, Veldora and Velgrind immediately realized it. Well then, let's get started. It's finally my turn, so I'll show you what I'm capable of. We're all set, so don't be shy. Well then, let's get this over with. Veldora, Velgrind, and Velzard all accepted my application in that order. This authority is based on a contract, so prior confirmation and approval are required. So there's no problem with this. I immediately activated True Dragon Core Transformation. At that moment, Veldora and the others emitted light and began to shrink rapidly. Floating in the air were 3 small sword cores, blade cores. In that instant, they had transformed into 3 dragon seed cores that shone with different colors. Veldora's is black and purple. Velgrind is a radiance made up of red and gold. Velzard's white and blue were in beautiful harmony. And then, as if sucked in, they snapped into my sword, Hope Elpies. It gives a comfortable and reassuring feeling, as if it had been there from the beginning. There was a sense of omnipotence, like he could do anything. Besides, I'm not alone anymore. Veldora and the others are also there. I no longer felt like I was going to lose. Now then, just holding the sword makes me feel excited. It's a blessing that I'm no longer afraid of Ivalage, but that doesn't mean we've won. Yet, besides, our battle seems pretty dangerous, so we don't know what's going to happen. We need to protect those who can't move, leaving aside those who can escape, so Guy and the others will have to do their best. Guy, can I leave the rest to you? Yes, but more importantly, are you sure you don't need me to help you? It was the first time I'd seen Guy look worried, but maybe it was because Velzard was there. Besides, Guy would definitely be of help. But my answer remains the same. We'll try our best about that. That's a lot of confidence. However, I'm planning to use all my power, so please be careful not to affect the ground. Oh, is it that bad? As he said this, Guy turned his eyes towards Hope Elpies. Seeing Veldora and the others shining dragon seed cores there, he seemed to be convinced that this was only natural. Yes, I can't say for sure because I've never tried it, but I think it has a stronger power and wider range than Milim's full power. Dragon Star Explosion Overlord. Drago Nova. In reality, it was unclear how much power Hope Elpies, equipped with 3 true dragon cores, could produce. Putting his comrades in danger with his own attacks was out of the question, and it would be terrible if it also involved the people on the surface. I'll be careful, but I wanted Guy and the others to be careful as well. What did you say? Grunu, well, I guess that's what Rimuru would do. Milim, who must have been listening to what Guy and I were saying, gritted her teeth in frustration. But well, it's the truth, so there's nothing I can do about it. More importantly, I want Milim to cooperate in ensuring everyone's safety. I get it. Milim, you should also be convinced. GRRR, I know that. At the very least, my attacks were ineffective against him, so. Unless he's even stronger, there's no point in talking to him. Milim also seemed to understand it intellectually. He agreed to follow my plan and cooperate with Guy and the others. By the way, what I'm curious about is the presence Milim is holding. Yes, it's Gaia. This child is clever, so she's able to move even in a suspended world. Wow, that's amazing. Really amazing. As expected of a dragon bloodline, but more than that, it may be thanks to his connection with Milim, their bond. This Gaia-chan can gather everyone's powers and create a superb barrier. What's more, as she is of the true dragon class, in principle, it is equivalent to true dragon magic or primitive magic. In other words, it can be activated anytime, anywhere, regardless of time or space. Wow, that's seriously amazing. Moreover, it's a defensive power, which is what I wanted most at this stage. Hey, that's what I was trying to say. Shut up, I'll be the one to boast about Gaia. Ramiris and Milim are having an immature quarrel, even though her appearance has changed. Ramiris is still Ramiris. In any case, it seemed that both of them would be helping out through Gaia, so I felt quite relieved. These guys are saying the same thing. Leave it to me. Guy concludes with this. Rimuru, I leave it to you to defeat him. Don't lose, Rimuru. Yes, I'll do my best. It wouldn't be a problem if it was just me, but I have Veldora and the elder dragon sisters with me. I won't lose that easily. I boasted, partly to encourage myself. Fighters get all excited before a match, but that's also a way of pushing themselves, so I think that's part of being an entertainer. In my case, I'm not trying to provide entertainment, so I don't overdo it. I have to push myself more and more so that I can give my all. Whether my spirit had reached him or not, Diablo's eyes were sparkling. Rimuru-sama, good luck in battle. Diablo said this while bowing respectfully. Following this, Testarossa and the others also gave encouragement. I pray for victory. It'll be an easy win for Rimuru-sama. Of course, if even Veldora-sama and the others are cooperating, there's no way we can lose. I was surprised at how much trust he had in me. The same goes for Benimaru and Zijin. I nodded vigorously and told him with a grin. Let's finish this quickly and restore peace. That's right. Plans to add more suites are still in progress, and the start of other entertainment facilities has been postponed, so I want to quickly resolve these issues and return to my daily life. That's right, Benimaru. I can only fight, so I want to quickly return to my days of training so that I don't have to trouble Rimuru-sama next time. Well, in moderation, and I think it would be good for you to find a hobby other than fighting. Benimaru and Zijin's words reminded me of the importance of everyday life. And also hope for the future. We must create more and more diverse forms of entertainment so that everyone can enjoy life. For that reason, Ivarage must be defeated. If by any chance I lose. It's a joke that's not funny. Rimuru-sama is omnipotent and invincible. Q-fu-fu-fu-fu. It is impossible for Rimuru-sama to be defeated. Benimaru and the others declared this with deep trust. Testarossa and the others nodded in agreement. I have no intention of losing, but there's no guarantee that I'll win. And yet, no one seems to think for a second that I'll lose. It's just right when people have such high expectations of me, as it makes me feel like I can't lose. Feldway came, pushing Diablo and the others aside. My God, could you please defeat the enemy of my lord, Veldanava-sama? Huh. Although it may turn out that he is seeking revenge against Veldanava in the end. There is no trace of that intention. What concerns me more is that he called me. My God. Maybe he hit his head hard. You, how shameless of you to worship our Rimuru-sama without permission. Diablo pointed this out angrily. This is why fools who don't know their place are so troublesome. It's extremely rude to come in with demands without even offering any service. That's true. Well, I can understand the desire to worship Rimuru-sama. Don't say that. You must be confused after losing your respectable master. It was a pretty harsh thing to say, but Feldway didn't stop him from continuing. Because it was so incomprehensible. So when Feldway was about to get into an argument with Diablo and the others, it was his companions who stopped him. Cornu tried to help Feldway, but Obra and Salario intervened. At that moment, Dino and the other three arrived and mediated as if they had no choice. Look, I just want to sleep in lazily. I'm not saying we shouldn't argue, so let's solve the problem first. Regardless of the first half, the second half was a reasonable statement that was unusual for Dino. Guy was about to lose his temper, so there was no way anyone would object. It was decided that the matter would be settled at a later date, and they would unite and cooperate in maintaining the Great Barrier. The last person to stand before me was Chloe, with a troubled look on her face. Rimuru-san, I can't see into the future, but I'm sure things will work out well. Right. Of course, right. I said that this was the first time things had gone so well, but there's no doubt that it was Chloe who led me to this point. To repay her for all her hard work, I'm going to end it right here. If it weren't for Chloe, I would have been finished a long time ago. When you think about it like that, there's no way to redo the current situation. It's a huge responsibility. That's why I'm motivated too. Rimuru-san, but if I lose? Don't worry, it seems like there's no way I'd lose. Well, whether that's true or not, I'll quickly prove it. When I jokingly quoted Diablo's words, Chloe finally smiled. Yeah, I believe you. Chloe's anxious expression softened, and I could sense the strength in her words. That she believed in me. This is also the result of the expectations placed on me. I think it's about time I pushed myself hard enough. And so I gained strength from everyone's words. Guy, Milim, Ramiris, Chloe, Diablo, and Testarossa. Although it was unexpected, they also gained a fair amount of power from Feldway's faction. And everyone joined forces, pouring their strength into Gaia, whom Milim held in her arms, and her gaze was directed only at me. Feeling everyone's eyes focused on my back, I raised one hand in response. Before starting the fight, I want to be extra careful. I turned my attention to the people on the ground who had stopped moving. Shock waves don't occur that easily, so I think it's fine as long as there's no direct collision, but in a suspended world, bonding power equals defensive power is 0. Any material loses its strength and will break just by being touched. Similarly, the people seemed to be under the influence of Velzard's fixation at the moment, but he wanted to make sure that it wouldn't affect the battle in any way. Leave that to me. With that answer, Velzard's true dragon core glowed. Its power is fixation. With this, I'm even stronger than before. I've also borrowed Rimuru's power, so I think you can feel more at ease. Velzard had been protecting the heroes who had gathered on this battlefield by turning them into ice statues. She further strengthened those complete immobilizations to enable them to withstand the aftermath of our battle. Oh, thank you. You're welcome. I said thank you. Now you can fight Ivarage without any worries. Just as our preparations were complete, Ivalage had also completed its complete transformation. It has grown to a gigantic size, reaching a length of up to 100 meters. Its appearance was completely deformed, but it still boasted an eerie, majestic presence. The upper body is that of a human with 3 pairs of arms, and the lower body is that of a 6-legged wolf. Its head is that of a dragon. From the top of its head to the back of its head, it has a mane like a blazing flame. 3 pairs of wings, like those of a great eagle, grew from the back of the human part. Its entire body, from its head to each and every one of its legs, is densely covered in dragon scales rin. The dragon's forehead is a distinctive feature. There was a human face there. Her appearance was a mix of Lucia and Veldanava, and it was difficult to determine whether she was male or female. A wolf's tail is made up of countless tentacles. It seems like this can be produced endlessly, and it even looks like it could grow from places other than the tail, so I decided to be careful not to be fooled by appearances. In any case, it doesn't seem to be the fighting style I had in mind. I don't have any further information to judge, so I'll just have to deal with it as I fight. If you're ready, let's get started. As I called out to him, Ivalage looked at me and laughed evilly. Ahahaha, I feel a surge of strength. I'm alone, what about you? I wondered if he had gone crazy, because he couldn't control his enormous power. But it seems that wasn't the case. It was strange to begin with, but to Ivalage it seems to be business as usual. Still, it bothers me. I am Lucia. Lucia is Veldanava, and Veldanava is me, Ivalage. It looks like the external transformation is over, but it seems like his mind is still unsettled. In other words, I am Laverger. Ah, this guy, he gave himself a name. There is no change in appearance, but his power seems to have stabilized. In other words, his strength has increased dramatically. What was even more important was that even Veldanava's soul that had been absorbed had been completely fused with it. At this point, it seems impossible to separate them no matter what you do. Although the possibility is not zero, there is nothing we can do. After defeating it, we can devour it with soul devouring, and then perform a detailed analysis appraisal. Is there a possibility? So we shouldn't give up hope just yet. Just as he made that decision, Ivarage, or rather, Laverger, spoke. The face on the dragon's forehead turned its gaze towards me and greeted me. Good morning, hello, good evening. Okay. Greetings are important. I agree. We'll never see each other again. Goodbye. While I was wondering how to respond, a flash of lightning passed by where I was standing. Detect danger and avoid it while confirming its true identity. It was several tentacles. That was close. It's not that I was careless, but this was a completely different speed than before. Superluminal speed. Seriously, it was faster than light. Perhaps in a stopped world, the laws of physics don't apply, making faster than light speeds possible. No, to begin with, the speed of information particles is constant, so I never thought such a phenomenon would be possible. I want to praise myself for being able to react, I thought to myself as I dealt with Laverger's fierce attack. The giant body remains in front of me. Only the tentacles that had separated from its tail were attacking me, as if pursuing me. That alone would be manageable, but I felt a chill run down my spine and turned my attention to Laverger's huge body. A strong sense of discomfort. Looking closely, he noticed that the face on his forehead had disappeared, and then he sensed a presence behind him. He frantically blocked the murderous intent with his sword and changed his position in midair. It seemed that the one who attacked me was a separated Laverger. I'm not sure, but it's probably the main body. His height was about the same as Veldanava's, just over 180 cm. There are 2 pairs of arms. A typical pair carries a sword in each hand, and another pair of slightly smaller ones, growing from under his armpits, were clasped together in front of his stomach in a madrah. In both hands was a shining jewel the size of a golf ball, a combination of black and white that emanated a powerful presence. There are 3 pairs of wings on its back. The top row are angel wings, the bottom row are devil wings, and the middle row are golden red wings like those that grow on Cornu. She looks rather slim and toned. Like the giant body, it was protected by an armor-like exoskeleton and dragon. Scales Rin. A giant tentacle attack comes from behind. And in front of me was the humanoid Leverger. Seriously, this is crazy. While being wary of the larger one, I also had to deal with the human figure in front of me. The giant body attacks with tentacles. The humanoid used the sword and magic as normal. His dual-wielding technique was graceful and efficient, and without a moment's hesitation, he even unleashed a primitive magic. However, I'm not giving up either. The power of Veldora and the others was absorbed into Hope Elpis, making it even more powerful than Leverger's twin swords. Furthermore, if he had Soul Devourer, he could nullify emission-type attacks. It didn't matter if it was primitive magic or not, so he had no trouble recovering from any unfavorable position. The tentacles are troublesome, but as long as I keep in mind the position of the giant body that serves as the starting point, I can deal with them with ease. Thinking that things will work out surprisingly well, I take on Leverger. The fierce battle seemed to continue forever. And what he discovered was that even the humanoid Leverger was stronger than Veldonava. Not only could he make full use of all of Veldonava's powers, but his energy was inexhaustible, just like Milim's. He even seemed to be able to use stellar particles with ease, and his attacks were flawless. To be honest, if he hadn't received it with Hope Elpis, he would have definitely taken heavy damage, and it wouldn't have been surprising if he had been instantly wiped out. His senses had become numb because he was able to deal with it, but one wrong move, and it would be game over. It's fine. According to calculations, even a direct hit would only cause minor damage. That's definitely a calculation mistake. I'm worried. At this point, Seal became completely useless. He had been acting strange sometimes before, but I hoped he would be normal. Now, I'm so disappointed, pissed. Well, there's nothing I can do about it. I can still do my best, so I'll endure until Seal's condition returns to normal. As this was happening, Leverger, who had been concentrating on his attack, stopped moving. Why do you block attacks? Bean Paste. That was something you should have avoided, but you took it anyway. Is that because you were trying to protect your back? I got found out. Leverger's attacks are overwhelming, and it's highly likely that no one but me could withstand them. Currently, he was concentrating his power on Gaia to create a super-large barrier, which was mitigating the impact on the base world itself. But if this attack were to hit the ground directly, it was difficult to predict what kind of impact it would have. So I made sure to take those attacks instead of avoiding them. He saw through it. Leverger laughs evilly. You're not like Guy. You hate it when your comrades are destroyed. If the planet is destroyed, your comrades will die too. Is that why you're protecting them? That's not a question, it's a statement. That was the moment my weakness was discovered. Basically, fighting while protecting someone makes you weaker. Leverger hits that point with precision. Kayahaha, I'll kill everyone, I'll destroy everything. High intelligence and childish cruelty. This imbalance is very eerie, but this is no time to be thinking about such things. We must do everything in our power to thwart Leverger's evil deeds. However, Leverger's actions were spot on. Hey, how does it feel to be lonely? Teeth. I was lonely, so I'll tell you too. As soon as he said that, Leverger's huge body began to move. He rushed towards the ground and launched a physical attack using his tentacles, which had multiplied to over 10,000 in number. The target is not me, but the people on the ground. Each one of them was stronger and sharper than a mediocre sword, and possessed a power that could only be countered by a Genesis class. Even before that, it would likely be finished off by simply stomping on them with its massive body. It was impossible to stop this, even with the Great Barrier. It was a sight of despair. I thought that it was probably impossible to understand Le Verger after all. Killing everyone and destroying the world just to teach me loneliness makes no sense to me. Veldanava had a purpose, but Le Verger was just playing around. If there was some kind of goal beyond the destruction, it might have been understandable. However, since there was nothing like that, his actions were meaningless. Getting caught up in something like that and dying was something that could never be forgiven. There are some people in this world with whom you just can't agree. It would be best to keep your distance from such people, but it was troublesome when they started to get involved with you. Le Verger said he was lonely. That may have been unfortunate, but there are many people in the world who are even more unfortunate. Not everyone is happy, and some people overcome misfortune and live good lives. I think I've had a rather happy life, so I wonder if I can truly understand the feelings of people who are unhappy. However, I was able to assert that the idea that, if I'm unhappy, I hope others suffer the same fate was clearly wrong. You should not do to others what you would not like to be done to yourself. People are not equal. If we thoroughly re-examine the world's systems and conventions and reform people's mindsets, we may be able to achieve as much equality as possible. However, this will be limited, and differences in innate abilities cannot be denied. No matter what. If people could freely assign appearance and ability scores, like in games, all discrimination would be eradicated. Whether someone is short or fat, that is the appearance that they have created. No matter what others say to you, you can respond by saying, "I like this, do you have any complaints?" However, the reality is not like that. Whether I like it or not, I have no choice but to get along with myself. That is why inequality will inevitably occur. In that sense, a world in which all people can enjoy peace and happiness equally seems to exist only in dreams and fantasies. That is why it is probably true that this world is imperfect. Even if we acknowledge that point, it does not mean that it is okay to destroy it. Moreover, destroying something just because it didn't go the way you wanted it to was a very childish and immature way of thinking. It is precisely because we are imperfect that we should strive to create a better world with our own hands. Mutual understanding cannot be achieved if one does not listen to what others have to say and only insists on one's own opinion, because there is no consideration for others there. When such a person complained that they were lonely or isolated, all I could say was that that was probably true. That is why I reject Le Verger's ideas. Concluding that they were completely incompatible, he decided to risk everything in himself to deny them. I exercise my authority silently. Without panicking, he instantly teleported to the row of ice statues and appeared in front of Le Verger's huge body. And then, in a fit of anger, he swung Hope Elpis. Of course, I didn't intend for it to end there. This is because an astronomical amount of power would be required to destroy Le Verger's enormous body, which is like a mass of super energy. This was to frighten him and get him to turn his attention to me. However, my slash turned into a powerful blade that cut through the sky, then cut through the giant Le Verger as well. And that's not the end of it. A huge amount of energy was generated, unleashing a thunderstorm of nothingness, and the torn sky showed no sign of closing. The dimensions split, connecting with another world.